Well, everybody, the movie that's coming up next is called Fugitive Alien, Fugitive Alien. Anyway, Fugitive Alien, and you know it's kind of got to be bad if they just take two cool words and put them together like that.
Like Mystery Science?
This time we watched KTMA episode 12, Fugitive Alien.
In which Ken takes off the coolest helmet ever and dons the uniform of a regular Earthling.
But first, we've got some follow-up. We had a few people, actually, I should say, apologies to our dear listeners. I've been really bad at replying to emails lately. Things have been a little hectic over here. I apologize. I appreciate your emails, and I cherish each one that I get. And you don't reply immediately, and so then you realize, oh no, it's been 3 weeks, and I feel terrible about it. Anyway, we got an email that I have failed to respond to from listener Emma, who wrote in, talking about road movies, which we discussed in our last episode.
Did she love the Britney Spears road movie as much as I did?
No.
Oh.
Well, presumably not, because she writes in to say that we left out the two best road movies. They both have John Candy in them: Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and National Lampoon's Vacation.
Wow, Emma, you're right. Those are both great road movies. There is no question. We could not talk about them all, right? I mean, we really just had to find an exemplar, both of us, and each in our own way, we did.
Yeah, of course, there's lots of great road movies out there. You know, I realize I could have taken that opportunity to actually watch one of the road movies. You know, the Bob Hope and Bing Crosby.
Oh, Road to Bali, Road to...
Yeah.
I can't even think of another one.
Road to Utopia, I think, is one of them.
Sure, why not?
It's ambitious, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying I've never seen any of them, but I don't think I've sat through a whole one. Certainly not as an adult.
Boy, I don't think I've seen one since I was a kid. Yeah, I'm with you. Not as an adult. I mean, I just don't turn to Turner Classic Movies like I used to, or AMC. I mean, ever since The Walking Dead came on, you just can't get your road movies on that channel.
I feel like the Criterion Channel has done some road movies, and I meant to watch one of them, but it didn't happen. Anyway, I also haven't seen National Lampoon's Vacation in ages, and I'm not sure I've ever sat through all of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Not because I didn't like it, just because I just haven't. You know, there's a lot of movies I haven't seen. Listeners keep writing to tell me this.
Well, I mean, I think it's important that they start to build our list, just like they're building your reading list as well.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, there are lots of great road movies out there. Those are indeed good ones. Mm-hmm. And of course, we love the CanCon appreciation there.
Yes.
But, you know, we have to pick the ones that we have to pick, which I'm sure Emma understands. But just saying. Mm-hmm. We should talk about this road movie. Is this a road movie that we watched today?
Oh, wow. According to the road movie tropes, wow, it'd be a stretch to argue it, but I think we could do it, Chris. If we had to.
Well, we don't have to because we've already talked about that topic, but let's talk about Fugitive Alien a little bit.
This time we watched KTMA episode 12, Fugitive Alien. Ken's just a regular alien type guy. He has a job with his best friend, marauding the galaxy and killing people. See, he's a soldier and part of an elite fighting force, the Wolf Raiders. And while he used to just love the killing, he suddenly grows a conscience when he sees a mother and her little boy who just happens to share his name. How can one Ken kill another Ken? Usually this transitions into a dance battle instead, but not this time. When Ken won't kill the kid, his best friend aims his gun and Ken is forced to kill his best friend to save the boy. Now Ken is a traitor. Ken hops into his space-mobile, but is not able to escape the Wolf Raiders coming after him, so he jettisons from the rocket, like Arthur Dent, and just as improbably, a spaceship from Earth picks Ken up and brings him home with them, which causes considerable tension in the crew. Ken wakes up in a hospital room only to try and steal a spaceship and leave the planet. But really, where will he go? He's a fugitive alien with one heck of an inner monologue. Captain Joe meets Ken as he boards what he thinks is an abandoned spaceship. Joe cajoles Ken into joining his crew and fighting for good. After all, what has he got to lose? Ken joins the crew of Captain Joe's ship, and they embark on a dangerous mission to some rich guy planet that dresses everyone like it's the movie Lawrence of Arabia. There's some delicate negotiating to be done, so Captain Joe +1 leave the ship and order everyone else to stay behind and wait. But Ken can't help it. He feels the naughtiness around him and has to partake. He helps some kids steal from the marketplace, he finds a bar and gets into a fight, and he hides in a jewel storeroom. That's what makes folks think he's suspicious. The rich people Captain Joe is negotiating with are super angry, thinking someone is trying to steal their copious wealth. Joe says, "Not under my orders. Kill the guy if you want." So Ken finds himself in prison, a prison so strong, not even a wolf raider could escape. But of course, with a little help from some button explosives, Ken does. And he's given orders through his shoulder radio from Captain Joe to free another prisoner too. They escape the prison and have to fight like everyone on their way through a rock field and across bridges and stuff. And like everyone is shooting at them with the aim of a stormtrooper. Then Ken's lost love, Rita, the sister of the best friend who he killed. Did I mention her yet? Anyway, she finds him and, she's come to kill him. It's the law in their Wolf Raider nation. But she can't. She loves him too much. Ken tells her she has to, but as their negotiations break down, more shooters arrive, and Ken aims at them, but they hit Rita, and she thinks it was Ken, and tells Ken he's a traitor with her dying breath. So he steals her necklace as a keepsake. Anyway, Ken and the other prisoner rendezvous with Captain Joe and the rest of the crew, and they fly out into space for their next adventure. The end.
Meanwhile, on the satellite of love, actually, back on Earth, Dr. Earhart is on the phone with Dr. Forrester, who's out in Las Vegas at a mad scientist convention trying to raise money for their experiments. Dr. F, in fact, is having a great time. He's hooking up with one of the stars of La Caja Fall. And Dr. Earhart panics in that very 80s way. Watch out, she's a dude. But, it's hard to tell since we only get Earhart's side of the conversation, but it kind of doesn't seem like Dr. F cares that much. And good for him. Back on the satellite of love, Joel invents a theme song for today's movie, and somehow it doesn't involve forklifts. And, hey, Crow's also absent. Well, what's up with that? After a little movie, we find out Tom and GPC have disassembled him as a prank. But no one seems to think the prank was that fun. Then there's a sketch about how you don't see certain combinations of celebrities together, like you don't see Diana Ross and Michael Jackson together, or Jim Backus and Richard Nixon. It's also not a particularly fun sketch, but Tom does manage to make Joel break and laugh at one point, so, that's nice. Hey, but you know what is fun? A dance party to the tune of YMCA by the Village People. Joel acts as judge and gives out points like it was an episode of Putting on the Hits. Tell me I'm not the only person who remembers Putting on the Hits. GPC gets a 3 for originality, a 3 for appearance, and a 0 for lip sync. Oops, Joel forgot to tell them that they'd be graded on their lip sync. Jeez, Joel, get it together. Anyway, after the movie, Joel has an exciting announcement. Due to popular demand, they're starting a fan club. Now, they don't have the classic P.O. box yet. Instead, you can send your mail to KTMA TV 23 directly. But, come on, this is very exciting news. And they say it, and then they kind of awkwardly walk off the set, and then the show ends. What do you think, sirs? We are 12 episodes into the KTMA season, and this is the 4th episode where Trace was not on the show.
Oh, what was Trace doing? Do we know?
I mean, it's like the holidays and he's not
That's
getting
true.
paid very much for it.
Also
And,
true. This is true.
yeah, I think there are reasons at times. I think at some point he's also like talking to the Comedy Central or whatever, things that will become Comedy Central people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because this would have been when they would have had to start that whole pitch, right?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm not 100% sure why he wasn't there for this episode. But, it's fine. They do okay without him. I mean, we miss him, but they have fun.
Yeah, and they make up very plausible reasons why, Dr. F and Crow might not be available for comment. So why not?
Why not? What did you think of this episode?
It was fine. It was fine. It was fine. I mean, it's weird to only have Joel and one other inside of the theater. I kind of miss there being a third body in there to banter with. I guess they hadn't come up with the maybe GPC could be in the theater at the same time, or, one of those ideas that they would do later, just to fill the theater out a little bit more. But I didn't mind like Joel and Tom bantering back and forth. They had fun.
They did, and I think this is an interesting episode for that. So, I don't know if this is a great episode for, a casual person who wants to try out a KTMA episode.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an interesting one for somebody who's thinking about the history of the show and, what the early days were like. This is probably a good one to put in your sample selection of KTMA episodes because, to my mind, this episode kind of sounds like a different show that MST3K could have turned into.
How so?
Well, they don't so much focus on jokes responding to the movie as they're really developing a kind of let's talk over the movie and entertain ourselves.
Yes.
It feels more like a podcast that's happening while a movie is playing in the background sometimes. Because there are long stretches where Joel and Josh are cracking each other up or trying to crack each other up.
Like when all they're doing is saying verb after verb after verb.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And then they're laughing and verbing again.
Yeah, they keep the bit up as long as possible. Or there's a whole bit where somebody says magnetic fields and they improv an entire parody of Strawberry Fields Forever for a minute. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Not my favorite of the riffs, but I do understand what you're saying. This is a different thing than them actually engaging with the movie almost with most of their energy. They're more engaging with each other, and the movie is kind of a side piece to the whole conversation.
Yeah, it's an optional thing that they could choose to interact with or not interact with, or they can just go off on it and, do their own thing. Kind of like what we do, right? Where we watch the episode and then we talk about the episode, but then we talk about other stuff sometimes. And sometimes we really go off on a big tangent with the other stuff, and that's fine. But we also don't have the episode playing in the background while we're doing this. So it's a whole separate thing. I don't know. It's just a different vision of what this kind of show can be. And I think that's interesting.
Can you imagine some of our listeners having the episode playing in the background while they're listening to the podcast? I think it might be a little too much. But at the same time, I wonder how interesting it would be.
I mean, people have suggested that we try something like that at some point, as if it were a DVD commentary, which is an interesting idea. Let's just say that.
We're a second layer of riffing on top of the riffing that's riffing the movie. That might be a little too meta for me, Chris, but I don't know.
Well, we're not riffing in that context. We're just doing our usual given behind the scenes context and occasionally making a joke that's okay, but not professional level comedy.
This is true. We are not professional comics, so it does have a slightly different vibe.
So this is an interesting alternative version of what MST3K could have been.
Do you think that this would have been a less successful model? I mean, clearly they didn't go with it for a reason.
I think in the long run, yeah, probably it wouldn't have been as successful, though it probably would still have some fans. It might be a local favorite in, Minneapolis if they had just stuck with this. I don't know if it would have gone as national. It is a much more, low-key kind of experience that it would be harder for people to hook into, I imagine, but it's hard to say. I mean, there are definitely shows that sort of do this in the breaks between movies, right?
Yeah, and often when people describe Mystery Science Theater 3000, they describe it as, it's like I'm watching a bad movie, but I'm watching it with my friends and we're having a good time. And this definitely felt like that. We're having a good time watching this movie, not there's an element of us being forced to watch this so that we're creating a circumstance where we could tolerate it for a long period of time. It is a very different vibe, but not in a bad way.
No. It's nice. And even though, like, we've talked a little bit recently about Josh being quite young at this point and some of the awkwardness that comes with there, especially, like, there's several repeated riffs about Tom
and
talking
his
about his
ladies.
ladies and being covered in mango juice and oils and all such things. And it's mostly a bit cringe, but it still has that kind of like friends hanging out with each other vibe.
Sure, yes.
So, I don't know. There's something to say about this one. It still wouldn't be the first KTMA episode I'd point anyone towards. Also because the movie's real bad.
You say that and we're going to have to watch it another time.
I mean, it's not the worst movie they've ever done by a fair stretch, but it is a remarkably incoherent bit of sci-fi. Of course, it's, stitched together episodes of a Japanese TV show. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but like, it doesn't work.
Yeah. So does that mean that you were telling me Fugitive Alien as an episode, either the KTMA or the season 3 version, neither of them show up in the top 100 episodes?
Oh,
What?
I'm sure the season 3 one does. Good heavens, that's a great episode. We'll talk more about it pretty soon, I imagine. It's a delightful episode, but it's still a stinker of a movie.
Not because of the movie, yeah.
And not to spoil my opinion for when we talk about the season 3 episode, but I think it's a really great episode for fans of MST3K and not a very good first time watching MST3K episode. Specifically because the movie is so, I don't know, difficult and
it's a bit of a
not
slog.
as charming as some of their other movies.
It is not as charming. It's no Alien from LA.
Though also, I could totally see why some people really love the movie or really love the movie seen through MST3K's eyes. Like, that is completely understandable. Some of the characters are delightful, but yeah.
Yeah. Sigh.
Well, shall we start talking about how this thing got to be made?
Sure, although, I mean, given it's a stitched up TV show, I imagine that it's going to have a little bit of a Frankenstein story behind it all the way through, right?
More like a Sandy Frankenstein story.
Ooh, look at you. I see what you did there.
Okay. Star Wolf was a Japanese TV show made in 1978. It lasted for 24 episodes. It didn't do very well.
Ooh.
About 14 episodes in, they decided to retool it a bit and give it a new name, Space Hero Star Wolf. And I don't know, other things changed. It's not easy to track down this if you want to watch it in English. I couldn't find it. Maybe it is out there, but I wasn't able to find it.
I mean, if this is a smorgasbord of the best parts...
Well, maybe not the best parts, but the parts that somebody who worked for Sandy Frank, who bought the rights to do this to it in the U.S., that somebody, his name's in the credits, I don't remember it, could stitch them together into 2 made-for-TV style movies,
Semi-coherently.
Coherently enough. I mean, definitely very abrupt with all these shows, but I felt it especially this time. The fact that, like, on a weekly TV show, even one that is serial, the world kind of resets between episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, they get out of it, they escape it, and then next episode, even if it's meant to be like following up from it, everybody's like, I'm feeling refreshed and happy now, not traumatized by the ending of the last episode.
It's true.
That happens in this movie. It's super weird and upsetting.
It is super weird. And they keep starting a new storyline with a new set of aliens and a new place in the galaxy to go to. And I have to admit, like, my small brain, like, could not follow all of the names of these places and how they all interacted with each other. It was too fast of a roll to see the overarching politics of all of these different star systems. So it was just like, all right, I guess I'm just flowing with this one and hoping that it all comes back around again so that I can reconnect with why that star and this star and those people and Wolf what. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, exactly. It turns out that Star Wolf, the TV show, is based on a novel.
Really? A novel?
A novel. In fact, a whole series of novels. The Star Wolf series by a guy named Edmund Hamilton.
these are like as popular as the Frank L. Baum Oz series, right? Like it just goes through a whole world building thing like that.
Well, not quite. Although Edmund Hamilton was kind of a big deal in his world, at least. He was a pulp sci-fi author from back in the day. He was born in 1904, died in 77. So like classic era pulp sci-fi author.
Yeah.
And in fact, some of his early short stories got collected and published as one of the first books in like modern tradition sci-fi called The Horror on the Asteroid and Other Tales of Planetary Horror.
Oh my goodness. But it's sci-fi, not horror?
Well, there's a bit of both. He was in Weird Tales as well, the Lovecraft connected.
Oh, nice.
Magazine. Yeah. So some of them are horror, but he really leaned on the planetary stuff, and he also did a bunch of stuff. That collection, by the way, is from 1936, so that's how early we're talking here.
That's really early. I would not have expected it to be that soon.
Exactly. He does keep going on and writing a bunch of other stuff, including at least one early Batman story.
Stop it.
Not so early that I read it for our episode a couple
Fair.
weeks, months, however long back. But from 1942, so that's impressive.
Yeah.
His big connection is with a character called Captain Future, Wizard of Science, or Captain Future, Man of Tomorrow. Change names.
I like Wizard of Science better. Stick with that one, everybody.
It's pretty fun. And after he passed away in 1977, Toei turned it into an anime.
Oh.
In 1978, the same year that Star Wolf came out.
Did you get a chance to watch any of the anime? Like, is it better than Fugitive Alien, what we watched?
I mean, it's got to be. I don't know. I didn't try to watch it. There's only so much time because I decided to read the book.
You read the novel
that Star Wolf was based on. I read the novel. It's called The Weapon from Beyond. It is the first Star Wolf novel. It came out in 1967, so late in his career.
Okay, so in the episode that we watched, they reference a weapon that they're really worried about certain people getting a hold of. But
yes.
that storyline, that plot line never quite comes to fruition for me. How does it work in the novel?
Well, the movie Fugitive Alien basically covers the plot of the first 6 chapters of this 20-chapter short pulp novel. There is a Fugitive Alien 2 that MST3K also looked at, and it continues where this movie left off, and it talks about the weapon a bit more, and then kind of never resolves it. Just tells another story entirely.
Yeah, can't do everything, sure.
Yeah, the novel is not reflected in that. It may be later novels in the series. He wrote 3 of them, but I haven't read those because it's not a very good book. I didn't enjoy it that much. It's not like the worst thing I've ever read, I suppose, but it's pulp sci-fi, and it's sort of like Fugitive Alien. Stuff happens, and then other stuff happens, and then other stuff happens, some of which is cool, but a lot of it is just stuff. There are a few differences in the book in those first 6 chapters than we see in the movie. First off, Ken's name is not Ken. You'll be surprised to hear.
What?
His name is Morgan Chane. Chane. Morgan Chane.
I think I like Ken better. Is that wrong?
It's not wrong. The whole thing about the law that Ken may not kill Ken that we saw expounded so much in Barbie.
Yes.
That's not in this. Ken kills his friend, whose name is Sander, with 2 S's at the beginning. Sander?
Okay. Sander.
Kills Sander for, I think it's an argument over some plunder that they've raided.
Greed is the reason why he kills in the book, not like altruism.
Well, I mean, that's how the Wolf Raiders are. Like they plunder.
Yes. They're pirates.
Yeah. And Captain Joe's ship is a mercenary ship in the book, like much more explicitly. It is not like run by an Earth organization like the one in the movie is. It is much more, we're on our own. And Captain Joe is a bit more devious in terms of how he deals with the fact that he's got a Wolf Raider on his ship. And he's much more, basically, if you don't become part of my crew, I'm going to tell everyone and they're going to kill you.
Which, I mean, the movie bears out, right? Like somebody is just even a little suspicious that Ken is a Wolf Raider and tries to kill him.
Yeah. Captain Joe is just a bit sweeter than the guy in the book, is all I'll say. And I like the Captain Joe version of the character way more.
Yeah, the whole threatening thing when you're in charge of a mercenary ship, it's just, it doesn't play as well. I mean, maybe it plays a little bit better in the Riddick movies, but, this is going for a level of sweetness. If you're going to be taking it, well, I guess in the book, they're taking in the guy who was killing his friend for greedy reasons, whereas in the movie, they're taking in the guy who killed his friend to not kill an innocent child.
Exactly.
So you got to have a Captain Joe who's more in line with that morality.
Yeah. Similarly, there is no Rita.
Well, that makes sense. Rita feels like an afterthought even in the movie.
So, there was a woman that Jane had romantic feelings towards back on his home planet of Varna, which becomes Valna in whatever, R's and L's, you know how it is. But his memory of this woman is that she made fun of him for not being hairy like a real Varnan would be.
Oh my gosh.
I think this is what the helmets are about. The helmets that have wigs attached to them.
Yeah. They're so weird.
They're super weird. The natives of Varna are described as having fine downy fur.
Okay.
That's blonde. And I think this gets translated into their wigs.
I mean, and it is true that Rita has stunning blonde hair.
Yeah.
Stunning long blonde hair.
But it's meant to be more all over their bodies. And obviously they wanted to change that to make it easier to film.
Sure,
so,
that makes sense. Yeah. And attaching a wig to the helmet? Fun. Super
it's fun. I like it. It. It's weird. It's fun. It's good. I don't know. That's a nice touch. So instead of Rita chasing after him, Sander has a couple brothers that are going after him. Whatever.
Oh, well, that makes sense. I mean, if the guy's got better next of kin to go on a killing spree, the love triangle thing was. I guess it's a triangle. I don't know. The innocent girl on the spaceship who just admires Ken so much.
Sure.
That's just a weird person to put in there too. Is there a girl on the spaceship, the mercenary ship in the book?
Oh, heck no.
All right.
No.
Okay.
There's also, Captain Joe doesn't have a family who dies tragically. This movie, this adaptation, refrigerates so many women. The whole women in refrigerators so that the men can become better people because their women died.
Yes.
That trope, which occurs twice, at least, in this movie, and, spoiler, occurs one more time in the sequel.
Chris, don't spoil it for me.
I know. Another woman is going to arbitrarily die real quickly to make the plot advance. Yeah.
I mean, okay, can I just stop you there? None of these ladies dying actually advanced a plot.
Well... I mean, sort of.
I mean,
yeah.
Captain Joe's wife dying did put him back into play after retirement, so her death can be seen as advancing the plot. But,
yeah.
I mean, it's really the boy Ken inside of the movie, not Ken's mom. And, Rita... it doesn't advance the plot. I mean, I guess it gives him a reason to not be killed in a firefight with the people with watermelon helmets, but still, it's weird.
Trust me, in the sequel, the necklace is going to come back.
I mean, of course it is.
Yeah, it's Chekhov's necklace.
I can't believe he stole that necklace.
He had...
yes,
it
I'm
makes
sure
sense. It actually makes sense in terms of, he doesn't want anyone to realize that she's Varnan. So you got to take the Varnan thing off of her so that when they find her body, they assume she's a local. That's why he takes it. They don't explain it very well.
No, they really don't. And are all aliens exactly the same except for their jewelry?
Not in the book, but in the movie, apparently.
I appreciate that in Star Wars.
They have a budget.
The aliens look different. In Star Trek, the aliens look different. I mean, you don't even have to have a budget. Look at Demon Squad. They didn't have a huge budget, but they were still able to distinguish between different demons.
We got one alien who looked different, the evil leader of the Varnans.
Yeah, but he's basically just wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, he's got makeup on or something, but yes.
Oh, yes. Well,
he's distinguishable. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
Also, you get the sort of green guy from the other world.
The sort of green guy.
The one that they rescue from the prison, yeah.
Yes, and some of the aliens look like they're from the Middle East. That's different, right?
Space racism.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying.
Okay, I will spoil the plot for you and tell you what that mega weapon is, because that's the whole interesting thing. So, turns out, spoiler, that they haven't found a weapon at all. They found a very alien spacecraft that has incredibly advanced technology on it.
Oh.
But they realize it is a very peaceful species that doesn't have any weapons on it.
Man.
Yeah.
So it's like the Lem story where the big weapon was collective consciousness, which makes everybody not want to do war.
It was 1,000% not like the Lem story.
Okay, never mind. Do you think reading the novel made watching Fugitive Alien, the episode, easier or better?
So there's a moment in the movie when they land on the Middle Eastern flavored planet, and Ken runs from the ship.
Yeah.
And they don't really explain why he's running from the ship in the
Other
movie.
than he says, I can feel the not, he straight up says naughtiness in the translation that we have, right? I can feel the naughtiness. I have to go be a part of it. It was such a weird line. Anyway,
in the book, they actually give a little context. This is the first time he's been able to go to a city and not raid it and not plunder it. He's never been a tourist before.
Oh.
So of course he wants to actually take advantage of this opportunity to see what a world that isn't his home world is like.
Yeah, and a world that he doesn't have to kill.
And that's actually a really compelling idea.
Yes, it totally is. That would be a way more interesting movie than the one that we have.
It would be a way more interesting book than the book that we have too. They don't go into it enough. But that rationale is given, and it's good, and I wish that they had explored it more, because that could have been the whole book.
Yeah, it's a really compelling thought. What do you do if all you've done your entire life is kill and raid and pirate, and then suddenly you're not allowed to do that, and you're in a place where you don't have a death goal, you have a nothing goal. How do you interact with that culture? That sounds much more compelling.
Hey everybody, it's time for the Shallow 13.
It's time for the Shallow 13, 13-hour-long segments that we've edited down to about 5 minutes, all about today's experiment, Fugitive Alien. Go, Chris, go!
So, yes, Fugitive Alien is edited down from several episodes of the 1978 Japanese TV show Star Wolf. Among the producers of that show were Akira and Noboru Tsuburaya, two of the sons of Eiji Tsuburaya, the so-called father of Tokusatsu. That is to say, TV shows and movies that have a lot of special effects. You'll recall that Eiji Tsuburaya directed the special effects for the original Godzilla movie.
Star Wolf was put out by Tsuburaya Productions, who also put out Saru no Gundam, aka Time of the Apes. Neither Akira nor Noboru are credited for that show, though they may still have had a hand in its creation.
Anyway, speaking of Godzilla, we get a brief scene of Captain Joe talking to his boss or something back on Earth. Now, did that actor look familiar? No? Well, what if we shaved off his mustache and gave him an eye patch? A little more familiar now? No? Come on, that's Akihiko Hirata, the guy who played the scientist in the original Godzilla. Wow, I even told you that we were speaking of Godzilla. I can't believe you didn't recognize him. Gotta admit, listeners, I'm kind of disappointed in you right now.
Captain Joe is played by Joe Shishido, who appeared in hundreds of Japanese films, sometimes as Joe the Ace, a Western hero who was the third fastest draw in the world. How do you get that title? And sometimes as Yakuza, playing the number 3 hitman in all of Japan in 1967's Branded to Kill. Look, third place is always gonna be funny. In comedy, we call that the rule of threes.
Early in his career, Joe Shishido wanted to stand out a little from other actors, so he went and got cheek augmentation surgery. Face cheeks, grow up. The results were, well, they were noticeable. Apparently, this led to him getting fewer bland romantic lead roles and more villainous Yakuza roles. And I think we can all agree that this was a career improvement.
Let's move on to the riffs. Ken gets into a spacesuit and Joel says,
Now he has a Major Matt Mason outfit on. More like Jeff Storm, but...
Major Matt Mason is an action figure, by which I mean he was a doll marketed to boys, but a small doll, about 6 inches tall, half the size of a G.I. Joe. Anywho, Major Matt Mason is an astronaut on the moon, and he fights Captain Laser, who is G.I. Joe sized, which makes him huge. But then Captain Laser and Major Matt Mason team up against even bigger enemies. Pew pew!
Jeff Storm, on the other hand, is a conflation of two of Major Matt Mason's co-workers, Sergeant Storm and Jeff Long. Ken's outfit looks more like Sergeant Storm's. Anyway, they stopped making these toys in the mid-70s because kids got bored of astronauts. And like around 2011, they started trying to make a Major Matt Mason movie starring Tom Hanks, but, well, that hasn't happened yet.
Captain Joe offers Ken a cigar. Really? Smoking in a spaceship? Really? Anyway, Tom riffs.
Tennessee Ernie.
Tennessee Ernie Ford had a deep, deep voice, which he used to amazing effect in the song 16 Tons. You know, you load 16 I can't even do that. You load 16 tons and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. That song?
Yeah, he also hosted a variety show in the late 50s, The Ford Show, which was called that because it was sponsored by Ford, the automobile maker. But he's also named Ford, so, that's cute. And also he had a mustache that looked not entirely unlike Captain Joe's. And, I think of Tennessee Ernie Ford as the kind of guy who smoked cigars like Captain Joe, but I can only find images of him with a pipe, which, close enough.
At some point, Tammy surprises Ken, and we get these riffs.
The Panakuchen girl.
Are you on surveillance duty?
Panakuchen was a chain of Dutch pancake restaurants in Minnesota where the waitresses dressed up in traditional outfits. In 1996, the restaurants were shut down for, unpaid taxes. Oofda!
The brand name was brought back a few years later, but even that version of Panakuchen got shut down in 2024. Who knows if it'll rise again? In the meantime, there is a Hollandberry Panakuchen in Rochester, Minnesota, that you can visit if you're in the area. And, I probably shouldn't be lingering on this point, but I am suddenly really hungry.
Pancakes will do that to you. Rita is rueing the fact that she must now kill Ken, and we get this moment.
Ken.
You dirty rat. You killed my brother.
That's the best John Wayne I've ever heard.
You dirty rat was, of course, not said by John Wayne. Tom's just making fun of how awful Joel's James Cagney impression is. Of course, James Cagney also didn't say that. His exact line was, "You dirty yellow-bellied rat," in the 1932 movie Taxi!
But speaking of John Wayne, hey, listeners, do you all know about the John Wayne birthplace? It's a museum in Iowa, and they've got a real working replica of John
And that's time! Speaking of obscure tangents we might go on, Chris.
Yeah, okay. Listeners, buckle up, get yourself a comfy drink, and settle in. This is going to be a bit of a journey. Charlotte, I don't even remember the context for this riff. Do you remember?
Yes. One of the first times that we see Ken, there is a riff about his helmet with the hair hanging out the back. And because of the shape of the helmet, Joel says, I think it's Joel says that he looks like the Phantom of the Paradise.
He looks like Phantom of the Paradise, that Paul Williams movie.
And I had no idea what the Phantom of the Paradise was, so I had to look it up. And my life has been changed.
I also did not know anything about Phantom of the Paradise.
Has your life been changed, or is it just mine?
It has also been changed, although perhaps yours has been changed more profoundly. But Charlotte, please explain for our listeners who may also be in the boat that we were in not so many days ago, what Phantom of the Paradise is.
Okay. Phantom of the Paradise is, so people who love it have a really hard time describing it, but like one of the best ways to describe it is that it is a movie that is also a rock opera, that is also kind of a horror comedy flick, and it tells the story of a guy who writes some music and it gets stolen by a record exec, and when he tries to confront him, the record exec has him thrown in prison, has all of his teeth pulled out in a volunteer dental program and replaced with metal teeth, and the guy escapes from prison only to find that his music is being made into schlock, so he tries to destroy all the records, but destroys his face instead, and becomes disfigured, and then haunts the movie/performance theater that this record exec owns called the Paradise, and essentially it then becomes Faust, and there's the devil, and there's selling your soul. It's awesome. It's amazing. And it has great music. And I had no idea it existed.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination of Faust and Phantom of the Opera with several allusions to other movies along the way.
Oh my gosh. It's so good.
So it was directed by Brian De Palma. Brian De Palma is one of those directors who I have not seen a lot of his films, but my sense is that Brian De Palma is kind of all over the map in terms of what his movies are like. I certainly get the sense that he will make big swings, and this is one of them for sure. Genre-wise, it's a bit tricky,
Yes.
and I love that about it. I love the fact that it's kind of all over the map. It's kind of making strange choices. It's not trying to be like a normal, realistic picture. It is much more in the world of like the Apple or Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes. But one of the things is like Rocky Horror Picture Show feels more campy.
Yes.
And more silly. And this one doesn't feel like it's going for silly. It really feels like it's going for sincere. Far more. I mean, Rocky Horror Picture Show has its moments, and this certainly has its camp. Don't get me wrong. But like, it just feels like its vibe is more like, it's almost like it's trying to do an expose of some of the underside of the recording industry.
Yeah, which I believe it was. I mean, so it's a musical, so Brian De Palma looked around for a songwriter and ended up with, of all people, Paul Williams. Did you know Paul Williams, who plays Swan? Did you know Paul Williams before you watched this movie?
Sort of. He looked so very familiar. So when I looked him up and I was like, oh, he wrote the song We've Only Just Begun and a bunch of other things. And of course, when you see things with Paul Williams, like there's a couple of things of him being on like the Muppet Show and things like that. And he looks so familiar in every way.
Yeah. I knew him mostly because he's on an early episode of The Muppet Show, and it's just one of those, who is this guy? Yeah. Like, I don't hate him or anything, but like...
No, he's amazing.
Who is he? He's wrote a bunch of classic 70s pop songs for the Carpenters and Three Dog Night and Helen Reddy and all these people, and it's like, and now you're going to hire that guy to write a horror music soundtrack.
To write the music for Faust.
Yeah, and he nails it. Like he does exactly what he needed to, and he was able to like vent a lot of his frustrations with the music industry and like feed information to De Palma, I believe, about like things that he could include or things that like I don't know, things to
like
work with when he's building it.
Casting calls, like
yeah.
My goodness. It was amazing. It was amazing. I appreciated this movie so much. I mean, like, he got to write songs that were like 50s, like hits with like 50s greaser hits. And then he got to write like the kind of like glam rock things that were coming out in the 70s. And he's got everything in between. And then he's got like sincere ballads, and and love songs. The music is amazing. The music is amazing.
Is very good. And also, Paul Williams does a great job as like this bad guy who's vaguely modeled on Phil Spector, amongst other things. I believe in early drafts he was called Spector like the Ghost, as a winking nod, but that was probably a little too close. And it's probably for the best that they went with Swan.
I love that they went with Swan. Oh my gosh. I love that his home is called the Swanage. I love it. It's so good. The ending scene has all of these women on stage dancing around in the most Vegas scantily clad, like Black Swan type outfits, not like Black Swan, the ballerina movie. No, like black mesh swan wings and just feather bikinis. I mean, oh my gosh, it's so good. The movie is amazing. How have I lived my life? Not only without not seeing this, but never even knowing about it. Until Joel makes this riff in a KTMA era episode. I mean, what? What?
Well, my sense is that the movie was very hard to market and tanked. Like, it just could not find its audience.
But it did find an audience, Chris.
Okay, everybody buckle in. This is part two of this segment. It sure did find an audience.
Didn't it? So there's a documentary that was made in 2019 called Phantom of Winnipeg about how Winnipeg, Manitoba went all in for Phantom of the Paradise. All in. Like Jaws came to the theaters, gone in a week. Phantom of the Paradise played all the time, all the way through the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, and still plays regularly in Winnipeg. And it has this devout following of people who go and see it. And so, like, they did a revival of the movie. They had the entire, not a revival of the showing of the movie. They didn't redo the movie or anything, but they invited the entire cast to come and had a packed theater, like, there as adoring fans of this phenomenon that was totally missed by everyone else in the world.
It's really remarkable. Yeah, the documentary sort of talked with a bunch of people who were kids, who were like 10 to 12 or whatever. One of them was even younger when they saw the movie the first time, when, as you say, it played forever. It played for 18 weeks in a row and then kept coming back because, like, no one else wanted this film.
Totally.
So,
oh my God. It had a PG rating. So all these kids were, like, going to see it and they weren't barred from seeing it.
And those kids have grown up to be adults, and many of them, or at least enough of them, are obsessed with this movie.
Yes.
And, like, it is to these people like Star Wars is in the rest of the world. You hear these stories of people who went to see Star Wars again and again and again when it came out, and they became completely obsessed with it. And some people it became their life. And, like, Star Wars, sure, I'm sure some people in Winnipeg cared about Star Wars to that degree, but, like, these kids love Phantom of Winnipeg. It is as meaningful to them as the biggest Star Wars nerd cares about the original Star Wars.
Yes. You know what it reminded me of, their fandom? It reminded me of you and many others with MST3K. Like this devoted, loving following where everyone felt isolated, even in their hometown, watching these things, wondering if there was anyone else out there who got it and who was there for this. And then finding that community either online or through the newspaper or through bulletin boards or something, but just that devout love and that feeling of isolation, then that changes into this elation of finding this larger community for this almost obscure thing that not everyone's heard of.
Except it's kind of a weird opposite of that, right? Because, like, MST3K, people watched it at home, alone, or hopefully, if they're lucky, with family members or friends.
Yes.
This movie was in a theater in downtown Winnipeg that people had to come in from the suburbs to see and didn't get played on TV that often, etc. So, like, and the kids who were going to it went to it several times a weekend. They were going again and again, at least the ones they talked to in this film. They were going again and again and again and again. And so they were seeing it in a group setting. They thought, like, it was Star Wars. Like, they had that same idea that, like, everybody is seeing this. We're all seeing this. And because they didn't have the internet, they had no idea that the rest of the world did not care one bit about this movie.
Could you imagine? But also that feeling later on in life, like in the 90s when it was 20 years afterwards, where they were like, I still remember this movie. I still see this movie. I still love this movie. It still impacts my conversations in every way. And yet I don't know. I think I might be the only one. Like some of the people they interviewed in the Phantom of Winnipeg, they were like, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was alone in all of this. I didn't know there were other people out there like me.
Yeah.
Even in my hometown, like that just seems amazing to me because they must have gone to the theater at the same time and never noticed each other. But that makes it even more select when it plays again in 1995, like, 20-ish years later. And it's like, people are still coming to this in Winnipeg. What? It was amazing. I'm so glad they did a documentary because it's one of those things where it's just like, why? And I don't think they really answered the question, but why? Why? Like,
yeah.
What is it about this movie and Winnipeg that come together with this synergy? I don't know.
There were two kind of sides of a coin that were put out in this movie, which is to say that, you've got this misfit movie that isn't very well loved that is picked up by this misfit city, so to speak, the city that is kind of isolated and where they have to make their own culture, especially in the 70s, that they latch onto this and they just grab onto it and hold it real tight. So that's beautiful. And like, I love hearing about that. The fact that there aren't more stories like this of, there's one movie that they love in Philadelphia or something like there should be more of that. That would kind of make sense, but because everything is so homogenized in its distribution and how we see things, and it's been like that for so long, we don't really get these pockets of love for things that might not find love elsewhere. So that was lovely. Mm-hmm. And then the other side of it was like the stars of the film, especially the ones who didn't go on to, bigger and better things. Mm-hmm. But even the ones who kind of did, like Paul Williams, who, didn't have a terrible career, but like the people remember this movie and he is like a god to them. And when he goes and visits and like everybody knows all the words to this movie that no one liked, that was like a blot on their resume.
Yes, this phenomenal music that he wrote that only people in Winnipeg have ever heard. What is that?
It's such a lovely story. It's a very charming documentary. So you watched this documentary and you texted me and you were like, man, I'm thinking of moving to Winnipeg.
I was thinking as I was watching this, that this community that has sprung up around this movie, like they talk about how in Winnipeg, everybody grows up with each other and you have all of your friend group established from the schools that you've gone to and everything and the places that you work. And so like, it's hard to meet new people, especially if you're a new person. But then they talk about Phantom of the Paradise being this thing that a new community kind of grew up out of and around. And just the way they talked about this community and the way they talked about loving this movie and the way they talked about the way this movie transformed their lives was like, that's the kind of community that I really love. Like, what a beautiful place to live. If I was going to move to Canada, Winnipeg might be the place I gotta go. Because if that's indicative of the entire community of Winnipeg, then just like, what a glorious place.
So listeners, we're pulling into the driveway here, but here's part 3. Okay, so I said, have you seen My Winnipeg?
Which I hadn't.
Yes, Guy Madden's 2007 documentary, parentheses, question mark, parentheses, about growing up in Winnipeg and what Winnipeg is like. Because I've seen My Winnipeg and I've met people from Winnipeg. And while I hadn't heard of Phantom of the Paradise, the fact that Winnipeg, of all places, fell in love hard for this strange movie that had a whole subculture around it. Yeah, that tracks. That tracks with everything I knew about Winnipeg. It totally fit. And I thought, well, before you get too excited, or maybe to help you get more excited about Winnipeg, here, watch this documentary and get another sense of somebody's impression of Winnipeg. So what did you think of My Winnipeg and the Winnipeg that it presents?
Not as glowing a review of Winnipeg as the Phantom of Winnipeg. Have to lay that out at the first, right? Definitely more of like the sleepwalking, not really being fully conscious and a part of everything that's going around and having this weird history and future that exists simultaneously. Like, it's a very strange movie. And certainly I have to say, like, the whole movie is about him trying to leave and never leaving.
Yep.
Right? Which, that's always a fun tension. And it's very much the tension of adolescence. But, like, Oh my gosh. Halfway through the movie, I was like, well, Phantom of Winnipeg makes me want to move there, but this movie doesn't make me want to live there. And then he started talking about his dad and hockey and all of that. And I was like, oh man, this is becoming more charming. I'm still a maybe. After my Winnipeg, I'm a maybe.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things about the movie is that it really contains quite a lot of misinformation about the city, or things that are not very true, but definitely give you the vibe of what Winnipeg is like.
Yes. They're not factually true, but they're spiritually true.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Like the sleepwalking in the Keys. Is that true? That can't be true.
No, it can't be. How could it be true? No, he says something about how, like, it's got 10 times as many sleepwalkers in Winnipeg, and therefore everybody keeps keys to their old apartments, so that if you go into their old homes, you have to let them in.
Yes, it's
like,
a law.
No,
it's a law. If somebody's sleepwalking and they have a key to your home and you have to let them in, they have to be able to come in, which he then kind of uses in the documentary because he reenacts his childhood in his childhood home, which a new person lives in, who has now been forced to let him in to redo his childhood with his mother and actors playing all of his siblings. It is amazing. It's so amazing.
And he complains about how he can't get, like, good performances out of his mother sometimes, and how his mother's very reluctant to do certain scenes. And, like, his mother is played by the most famous actor in that movie. His mother's played by an actor named Ann Savage, who does a great job in this. But, like, that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, but, like, there's so many different shifting levels of what is real here. Like, yeah, it's fantastic. And also just very funny. There's a whole bit about how, like, he got actors to play all of his brothers, including his older brother, who passed away quite young, and didn't want to have the father involved, who has passed away. And the mother insisted, he says. So they pretended that they had disinterred him and put him in the middle of the living room under some dirt. And you can see the older brothers leaning against him while they watch TV.
Oh my God, it was disturbing and funny and disturbing.
And it like really hit. Yeah. It's like really felt very profound, but also it's complete nonsense.
Absurd.
And it's just
also absurd.
Oh, this is how you do it. This is how you make a movie.
Yes, and it's possibly how you show what living in Winnipeg is not like sunshine and fun and all the time. It's also like ice and cold, and it's also like the tearing down of all of your old buildings and memories and rebuilding something that's only corporate, and they can't take my last thing, but they do. And yeah, oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. Also fun. Not making me want to move to Winnipeg, though.
Fair enough.
Less so. Much less so. It's a little too sleepy in that one. I mean, at least in The Phantom of Winnipeg, you have a Phantom of Paradise cover band. That sounds awesome.
I love that Winnipeg picked up Phantom of the Paradise and ran with it, much more than I love the fact that Japan picked up Edmund Hamilton and ran with it.
Oh my, yeah.
But you know what? I'm super glad that these relatively obscure movies and artists and novels find a happy home, that there are people who appreciate them and cherish them, and that the world can be a little bit more diverse and weird in that way. I think that's great.
Yes. And that these tendrils of that love come out in these very unexpected ways, right? Like through an offhand comment. An offhand comment about the Phantom of the Paradise leading to all of this.
Well, that's what our show's about, for sure. If you've been affected by the issues on this show, if your hometown is obsessed with a movie that no one else seems to know about, or if you'd like to ask us anything, get in touch with us. Our email is info@itsjustashow.com, and we're on Blue Sky. Either way, we'd love to hear from you. This show is made possible by listeners like you and like our randomly selected supporter, April. Thank you, April. For about $1 an episode, you too can be like April, and you can help us research and record this show, and you can join us on a friendly Discord, and you can listen to all our superfan bonus bits, and you can find out more at itsjustashow.com/Patreon or patreon.com/itsjustashow. And if you want to follow up on anything that was mentioned today, you'll find links in our show notes at itsjustashow.com/episode/176.
I mean, Chris, I could ask you what we're watching next, but I think everyone knows what we're watching next. But can you confirm for everyone what we already know to be true? What are we watching next?
Well, it turns out they done did it again. We're going to be watching Season 3, Episode 10, Fugitive Alien.
But this time, the riffs are going to be stellar. You're telling me that we're going from an episode that's meh to an episode that is, oh my gosh, and it's going to happen next time.
I mean, yeah, that episode has one of their most famous riffs ever. But until then...
I know your middle name, and I'll tell it to everybody if you don't listen to what I say. It's Jerome.
He's made killing allies into kind of a hobby, which is admirable, but not very smart. Take it away, Theme Squad. Sander?
Sander.
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 Sander.